Perfect. Good afternoon, all. I'm coming to you from the middle of Michigan. My time right now is 7:16 p.m. and I'm really excited to be with you. Been along for the journey in the state of Washington for the last several years, and I serve as one of the Balanced Calendar consultants. I recognize some of the names on the screen. Some of you may have heard parts of this or more than parts, but if you're like me, I always learn from each session I attend, and I'm always connecting my previous understanding to the new learning, and then I'm smarter tomorrow. That's what that all turns out to be. So this is the Balanced Calendar 101, and I really would love to present some stuff to you and then also take your questions as you see fit. I had the luxury of being the host for Jamie Vollmer this past week. So I guess it was about a week ago. And he came to our county. He was at our high school, and his book is not new. It's a 2010 publication. But Jamie Vollmer is best known for going from critic to public education supporter. And he goes on to say, no generation of educators in history has been asked to do what Americans now demand of their public schools. Each year, the burden grows, and each day, millions of teachers and administrators do everything they've got to meet the challenge. Their record is remarkable, but no matter how hard they work and how often they are criticized, they cannot produce the results our nation needs. Not because they're arrogant, overpaid, or unionized. American educators cannot teach all children to high levels because they work in a system that's designated to do something else. Select and sort young people for an industrial society that no longer exists. This is really a great backdrop for why we're here. One of the things that we have yet to do in education, we've tried everything. This is my 30th year. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself in the next slide. But we have not pulled the lever of time. We continue to function since approximately 1890 on a 180-day calendar, school calendar. And I'm not here to say add additional days. We've done that in my district, and it does not yield additional achievement results. Doing more of the same does not bear out. Okay, so the next 40 minutes or so, we're going to dig in, and we'll be kind of cruising through this. So let me quickly tell you a little bit about me. Here I am as a kid who was required to go to summer school. I was caught in between phonics and whole language. My district that I attended picked whole language, and that did not work for me. So while my friends were going to, to play basketball in the summer, I was going to summer school. And I leave that with you because there is another way. You don't necessarily have to send kids to summer school if you remediate them in real time by using something we call intercession. Here I am as a first-year teacher, 1994, teaching kindergarten. Here I am as a high school soccer coach. And I share that with you because it's relevant. People do not believe you can run the balanced calendar and high school sports at the same time. It's happening everywhere, I should say, in lots of places across the nation. Here I am as an elementary principal. But I want to go back to this picture right here, because I started every single school year thinking I was going to make the difference in the lives of my students, only to be exhausted in October. And this is how I felt. Okay, so I'm happy to report no one was permanently injured here. That is my daughter, Olivia. That was at her college orientation. Can you imagine starting your college experience by falling flat in front of your peers? But that's how I felt as a new teacher. I wanted to change the lives of the students I was serving. I wanted to make the difference, but I just fell flat on my face, exhausted every October. And that bottom left picture, look at that smile. In October, I had endless energy because I was on a 2-week fall break. And mind you, I come to you from mid-Michigan today during our scheduled week intermission. So I'm on fall break right now. And it's been good. I golfed yesterday, even in the rain. There is another way and another model, and it's called the balanced school calendar. I would like just to quickly share, I grew up here where this is, and I now live here. Here's my partner, Ann. She is a college professor in mid-Michigan. Here's my son, Max, who's a second-year college student. Here's Olivia, still smiling after falling. She now lives in Phoenix, and here I am with a bow tie. And I wear a bow tie 5 days a week so that my students recognize their superintendent. In 2015, I successfully defended my dissertation that focused on the balanced calendar because I needed to know what in the world was going on. My colleagues, when I was teaching on the traditional calendar, were as tired as I was. But when I moved to a balanced calendar in the same district, mind you, just across town, I was very curious to see what was happening around me when we were entering October and our faculty and staff had tons of energy. And after break, they came back with even more energy. So in 2015, I successfully defended my dissertation. I was appointed the National Association executive director, and I was also appointed the superintendent of schools in the district that I've been in now for the past 30 years. So you're going to get one more shot of Olivia biting the dust here. And I want you just to think, how do you feel right now? Are you exhausted? I know I certainly was. So if you have a device close to you, I'd like to know who's in the room. So if you don't mind, go to menti.com and put in 8917 8191. Here we go. Building administrator, first one in. Teacher. Who else is in the room? District administrator. Four building admin, superintendent, district administrator. That looks like about our number. Okay, thank you. That'll stay open. So if you're still working through, go ahead and submit that. We will add that again to the next session, and then we will compare notes. There's another district administrator in. The next slide is a video that really does some great foundational work regarding the balanced calendar. So I am going to go ahead and turn up my volume and show a quick video.
Let's look at two children, one from a middle-income family, the other from one of the millions of low-income American families. As the two kids head off to kindergarten, look what happens. The middle-income child starts out with a 6-month lead. The low-income child is already falling behind because of a lack of access to early reading and preschool education. During their year in kindergarten, in the same school and classroom, the two children will learn at about the same rate, so we'll move them both forward 9 months. But look what happens in that first summer between kindergarten and first grade. Our middle-income child moves ahead about a month in reading because learning of one kind or another continues over the summer. The low-income child falls back about 2 months. So when school begins again, when they go back for first grade, the gap between them has already widened. During first grade, again, they move ahead at about the same rate, another 9 months. That next summer, the activities and lifestyle of the middle-income family keep that child moving forward, but the low-income child has fewer opportunities to reinforce good habits like reading, and that child falls farther behind. Then we come to second grade. And again, our two children learn at the same rate. But the summer after second grade sets our low income child back again, and our middle income child moves forward again, and the gap widens again. By just the third grade, the two children are already far apart. By the end of fifth grade, the gap between the children is 2.5 to 3 years. It will keep growing through middle school. So you see, without addressing what's happening during the summer, it is impossible to ever catch up. It's impossible to close the gap. No matter how much high quality learning goes on from September to June, every year the gap widens.
So the rest of my session will be built on bringing that video to life and sharing some reasons why you might want to consider the balanced calendar. If you'd like to chat at any point moving forward, here's my contact information. Truly, I'm a current superintendent of schools in Holt, Michigan, 48 to 4,900 students, 850 employees, a lot of moving parts. There's a renewed interest in the balanced calendar across the nation, especially in the state of Washington, but no one is doing the study as deep and as wide as what I'm observing in the state of Washington. So good on all of you for at least investing in the what ifs. With that, why would we consider the balanced calendar? Well, the number one reason is to improve student achievement. But on the heels of a pandemic, many of the students in my district, and I would predict many in the state of Washington, may have some unfinished learning to complete. And this model allows unfinished learning to occur during a scheduled school break during a time called intersession, where selected students are invited back for targeted instruction, either to be pre-taught. David Hornak would have been a great candidate for pre-teaching, to be retaught, to be remediated in real time, instead of the model that I was stuck in, where each summer I went to summer school, or to be enriched. And that is another option. Now, this model has benefits to the adults as well. Number one, it reduces teacher burnout. It improves teacher morale. I will also tell you that there's a benefit to the nationwide substitute teacher shortage. Our balanced calendar educators take their annual dentist and doctor's appointments during a scheduled break rather than during the school day, where they would have to potentially have a substitute cover their class. This model also allows us greater access to our students. Instead of sending them out for about 12 weeks in the summer, we're sending them out for 6 to 8 weeks. And we're actually able to provide them food more frequently, access to educational materials more frequently, care, love, clothing, anything else they need. And our balanced calendar schools are healthier. We are able to send our students away. The germs walk away. We deep clean the building. We invite our students and staff back. And again, that process allows our building to be deep cleaned more frequently, which keeps our buildings healthier. So our attendance rates are better. To that end, this is a concept I've been working with now for the past year or so. You all have wonderful students in your district that only need 150 school days. By state law, they have to go 180. Wouldn't you love a little more flexibility? Well, I'm not here to talk about that. I do have some pretty good contacts with OSPI right now, and I'm happy to champion that if that's something you're interested in. I would love to find a way for, if a child needs 150 days, that's what we give them. But in our current model, you have kids that need 150, but you give them 180 because you have to. You have other students that need 180, and that's exactly what you present them. But there's a growing number of students that need 220 or more school days to close those learning gaps, to finish the unaddressed learning that may have occurred during the pandemic, but we only give them 180. And then we sometimes say in the summer, we'll make it up to you. Think about this model of reducing your summer, inserting periodic breaks, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, and inviting select kids back during one of those scheduled breaks. and inviting select staff members back or asking who wants to come back to supplement their income to target the instruction for pre-teaching, reteaching, and enrichment, which is called intercession. So I'm not asking you to consider adding school days. In fact, I mentioned already, I think that in Holt Public, we went to a 190-day calendar back in the 90s. And we absolutely studied the daylights out of our student achievement and saw no added results, no benefits from adding additional school days because we were doing the same thing. During intercession, you need to be targeted. You need to deviate from your core programming and focus in on the lagging skills. So we are being asked to remediate the learning gaps the traditional calendar creates. I'm advocating that you look at your 180 school days and use those more efficiently across the calendar year by reducing the length of summer from your 10 to 12 weeks down to 6 to 8 weeks, and you can step towards that. The ideal balanced calendar is 6 weeks. We can get behind an 8-week summer, but you really need to personalize this to your learning community. While there are some researched models out there, you really need to make sure it meets the needs of your own learning community. But if you add intercession, take your 180 days and you add 20, here you are. If you had 25, you're in, you're right up in this range. And so that's good for kids, especially those who need to be pre-taught, retaught, or enriched. A balanced calendar modifies 180 school days to keep the learning process continuous. The most researched model, if you pick up a balanced calendar book, and there are several of them, you're going to find the 45-15, which is also known as 9 weeks of instruction with a 3-week break. That doesn't work in Holt Public Schools. We go approximately 6 weeks and take a week off, and we repeat that cycle. Mind you, it gets a little interesting in November because we take the full week of November off, or excuse me, Thanksgiving off, and then the typical holiday or winter break as well. Balanced calendar districts have several short vacations throughout the year rather than one 3-month summer intermission. The amount of knowledge that's lost during summer break by children is paramount, and it grows as illustrated by the video. The extent of summer learning loss becomes more dramatic as students get older. And if you don't want to listen to David Hornak, think about John Hattie's work. John Hattie and his team study studies, and they determined that summer has a negative effect size of negative 0.09. And he goes on to say, or his team does, that, hey, we also don't advocate you just put your money behind things that are at a 0 or better. You really need to look for techniques that are at a 0.4 or better to have the greatest impact. 2/3 of the achievement gap in 9th grade can be attributed to the amount of time required it takes a teacher to reteach and review what is learned prior to summer intermission. You may not be aware, but your traditional calendar teachers are reteaching between 20 and 40 school days every fall. So we are tasked with making sure every child makes a year's worth of academic growth in 180 days. 180 days is less than half of the days available in the calendar. Now we're unplugging the extreme 40 days. Now your teachers and educators are doing their best to help their children they serve make a year's worth of academic growth in 140 days. The equation doesn't work. No wonder we're in this spot. All children attending school on the traditional calendar, according to Cooper and Company, lose an average of 2.6 months of math skills during the summer break annually. And this is worth repeating. We are being asked to remediate the learning gaps the traditional calendar creates. School districts across the nation are spending millions of at-risk dollars and title funds to help close the learning gaps we contribute to each year. This has been monetized. Just checking my little cheat sheet. Across the nation, we spend $21 billion with a B on remediation. Can you imagine if we moved in the direction of the balanced calendar and we closed those learning gaps in real time, what we could do with all of the funding coming to the school districts? I have some great ideas. Okay, the balanced calendar, strengths, continuity of instruction equal quality. Planning and prep is more efficient. Our faculty and staff believe that they are able to be reflective practitioners. They can look back at where they've been and look forward to where they're going. Intercession, as discussed several times, is best for remediation, pre-teaching, remediation, and enrichment. The balanced calendar reduces the summer slides, summer learning loss, brain drain, whatever you'd like to call it. It improves staff and teacher attitudes. Due to the more frequent breaks, there's less burnout, and there's a positive impact to the nationwide substitute shortage. If you look at the pie chart here, you will see there seems to be more balance between blue and red. The counter to that is one big red chunk in the summer with slivers of red chunks throughout the rest of the year on the traditional calendar. What balanced calendar employees say is also backed by research. So our teachers in year-round programs believe that the quality of instruction is better due to the continuity of instruction. Our educators believe that it's more productive to plan on a balanced calendar because they're able to chunk out their instruction, due in part to the fact that they're able to be reflective practitioners. As a teacher, I fell flat on my face in October because I was exhausted. I couldn't think. As an administrator on the balanced calendar, I started wondering what in the world was happening around me because our teachers had endless energy. And as a superintendent on a balanced calendar, I can see the benefits every single day. There's an enhanced level of professionalism. Teachers on the balanced calendar believe that their level of professionalism goes up due to the fact that the breaks allow time to be reflective. It has a positive impact on teacher morale, and it reduces burnout and stress. And mentioned more than once, there is a positive impact to the substitute shortage. Schools offering intersession programs during the vacation periods are often credited, they credit intersession for enhancing and supplementing the regular curriculum. Intersession provides opportunities to experiment, but really target the lagging skill or what's not working. Or on the other hand, we put a lot of effort into the struggling student in my district, and we don't necessarily enrich our students that only need 150 school days. So intersession allows that academic freedom to really, really challenge those students. And we love it for that. Another advantage for teachers is there's less time required to reteach the previous year's curriculum. And the balanced calendar has benefits to all students, but it has foundational benefits to our most at-risk students, as illustrated by the next slide. The next slide is the fact, it's called the theoretical framework, which is the faucet theory. And the faucet theory can be brought to life like this. I'd like you to think about any faucet, one that has a hot and one that has a cold, and relabel those lower income and middle and upper class or upper income. And when your students, regardless of their economic status, are in front of your educators, they're learning at the same rate. The resources are flowing at the same rate. However, as illustrated by the video, when your students are away from you, all students are stepping back. However, our middle and upper level income students and families are able to maintain their level of academics or not regress as much as the lower income student because the resources are turned all the way off for the lower income student. Again, that's called the faucet theory, as developed by Entwistle, Alexander, and Olson in 1997. So I don't see that as being a very old theory. I think of theory as being something that was developed hundreds of years ago, but this is called the faucet theory, and it really illustrates the summer slide. The balanced calendar has positive impacts on health and behaviors. Focused and engaged children tend to behave better. But I want to step back. When your educators have a chance to take a breath, they can look back at where they've been and look forward to where they're going. They're going to engage their students at a deeper level, which is going to help behaviors. Our educators often say they are taking less time reteaching behavior expectations annually, which is more time on the current year's curriculum, because they don't have to spend a week teaching expectations. The students still know what to do. They see even summer intermission as just another break. Again, there is a brief behavior expectation review following each break, and balanced calendar schools tend to have better attendance because they're deep cleaned more frequently. So here's a crosswalk between two calendars. I just like to show you the balanced calendar in this case, not in all cases, but in this case started early August, where the traditional calendar started mid-August. There was some time off here while this, let's see here, no school. Anyway, there was some time off potentially for a long weekend. Here's some Labor Day time off, 2-week fall break, 1-week fall break. This is a full week at Thanksgiving. Whoops, you're not seeing what I'm seeing. Full week at Thanksgiving, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at Thanksgiving. Typical 2 at the holidays, MLK Day. This is a Friday through Friday. This is a Monday through Friday. Here's a 2-week spring break on the balanced calendar, a 1-week spring break on the traditional calendar. A full week off at Memorial with a 1 day off at Memorial, and then last day of school being late June. So this calendar, balanced calendar, went early August to late June. This went mid-August to early June, and that's a nice crosswalk. I would offer you some advice. If you're considering this, you should look back at 5 years of attendance for your students and staff. Look at some things that are non-negotiables in your learning community, like the local fair or some deep-seated traditions, and schedule your time off around those non-negotiables, or when your students and staff traditionally are out of the district. Some considerations: determine the needs of your environment, work with the community to ensure students will not be left without intercession opportunities, childcare, or summer activities. If you're changing your school calendar, make sure your community partners know. Work with your educational partners again, so you know everyone has there are no surprises, I should say. And offer PD to not only your staff to build capacity, but also your learning community. So I'm often asked a series of questions. These are the most frequently asked. Does the balanced calendar have a positive impact on the children that score within the bottom 30% of the standardized tests? Absolutely. The faucet theory speaks to that, but the new research indicates that balanced calendar will benefit all students. How would families manage 2 calendars if parents and guardians worked on one calendar, for instance, in a neighboring district that's different from where their children attend? This happened to me. So Holt Public has had balanced calendar education for 30 years, my whole career. But we've had a bifurcated system for a long time, where we had traditional calendar schools and balanced calendar schools. And my children went to the balanced calendar elementary, but then transitioned to the traditional calendar middle school. And that allowed me to be a dad, because prior to that, I was serving other people's children. While I say family first, I often put my own family second, and I predict that you probably do too. It's not fair to our families, but that's who we are as educators. It allowed me to drive my children to school. It allowed me to volunteer in school and be a dad. Does the balanced calendar cost more to operate? Nope. It's the same 180 days, just used more efficiently across the calendar year. If you're adding intercession, and I strongly, strongly recommend that you do, you really are not going to realize the same results if you're not adding intercession. Many districts across the nation use title funds, ESSER funds, and other grant funds. There are some additional grant funding sources in the state of Washington. In some cases, districts do charge a tuition, not for students requiring remediation or pre-teaching, but rather for those that are choosing to attend for enrichment. With strong partnerships with the ESD, how would we honor IEPs? So in our case, we don't have enough demand for OT or PT. So we ask our ESD to provide someone from the ESD to service our students. And so what we ask our families, first of all, can we make up sessions in September and May? And sometimes our families say, no, we need more continuous therapies. So we prefer to just stay on track. And if they don't want to do the makeup sessions, double sessions in September and May, then we will often ask the ESD employee if they would like to work some additional hours or earn some comp time in August and June. And if they decline, we've then moved to allowing families to seek their own services to be paid by the district, because many of our families have their own therapists lined up for summer anyway. Does the balance calendar require specific adjustments to employee contracts? Nope. We have one contract. However, we have several different guiding calendars. This next question is, what do you forecast if we were to adopt the balance calendar? I can tell you it's not a forecast. It's what we've seen across the nation. Waiting lists at many grade levels. This is a better fit with current lifestyles and workloads. I don't know another industry that actually schedules 12 consecutive weeks off. And if you're a choice district or a choice county, I predict that families in neighboring school districts may choose to move their kids to your district. Does the balanced calendar have a negative impact on athletics? No. So we are competing against traditional calendar schools, even though we're on fall break right now. Our athletes, our student athletes, are still training, they're still competing, and our athletes and their families understand the commitment. It's no different than Thanksgiving, where they might be going to a tournament or going to work out over the holidays when practices continue. You're just exchanging some time. Starting earlier in August, that's just what our athletes have to endure, and they understand that. Most athletes that I engage with are committed and understand, and also are doing a lot of year-round training anyway. Does the support staff work intercessions? And my response to that is, districts tend to schedule employees to work their required days. As such, scheduling people to work during an intercession is really based on the demand. If you have special ed kids attending, I would want support staff to be there. Do you need to have office staff there, or can you hire an aspiring administrator to lead the intercession? That's what we do. It allows the office staff the week off. So when I was growing up in the 70s, we would eat breakfast and go out and play. And this was the indicator time to go home when the street lights came on. But right now, students are connecting with their classmates and peers virtually on a gaming system, through a cell phone, or worse, not connecting with them at all. They're not running around the neighborhoods, at least in my community, like they once did. Some common concerns that I can tell you are just that. They're concerns that we can move past. The balanced calendar requires more school days. No, it doesn't. 180 days used differently across the calendar year. Athletics, we already talked about that. Summer employment for staff. Yeah, that's a thing, but my counter to that would be, hey, how would you like to supplement your income by working a week of intercession? Summer employment for students. That could be a thing, but I'm not here to eliminate summer. I'm here to ask you to reduce summer to 6 to 8 weeks. So there's a decent chunk where a student could work. And then they could also work during fall break and Thanksgiving break and all the other breaks if you choose to add those. Annual summer cleaning. We have custodians that we absolutely move their cheese on this because they have been programmed that time the deep clean is in the summer. But once you go through a cycle of this, your building holds up better. We have carpet. I'm not proud of this, but we have carpet that's over 20 years old that looks relatively new because it's deep cleaned more frequently. I've been told the balance calendar eliminates summer. That's not the case. Use your 180 days differently. Reduce summer. Do not eliminate it. It costs more. No, it really doesn't if done correctly. Now, if you're like us in the early days and you bifurcate your system, yeah, you're not going to be as efficient. So there might be some additional costs. Family traditions tend to be impacted if they're going to be, if their family tradition is scheduled in late August and you're starting school, you might have, families may need to change their camping trip. I've been told traditional calendars are more equitable. On the onset of my talk with you tonight, I talked about how inequitable the traditional calendar is. We want more access to our kids. We want to support them on a more frequent cadence. And we don't have that on the traditional calendar. We work real hard a sprint and then we send them home. And we say, we'll try to feed you in the summer. We'll try to provide you educational materials, but we're not very good at it. Balanced calendars are more challenging for blended families, and that's not the case. Our families who are living apart or divorced have mentioned to us that they appreciate the shared parenting arrangements that are generally related to the more frequent breaks, so that shared parenting time becomes more balanced on the balanced calendar. And the balanced calendar only benefits struggling students, and that's not the case. It's all students. Just a couple more slides, folks. These are some great books for you to consider. In 2023, back in January and February and March, we did a book study on year-round education, change and choice for schools and teachers. I'm happy to do that for your district if you'd like at any point. Summer versus school, the possibility of year-round school. That's Dr. Peterson's book. We've done a couple years of that. Call on a local expert or connect with NAYRE. That's me. So your learning community is going to expect that you know everything about this. And while I know you're really, really bright and you probably know most of it, there are benefits from asking someone from the outside to come alongside you so you can listen to those pressure points and really understand what your community's thinking about it. You're able to dig into, do we need to engage them in the calendar conversation? Communicate often, hold informational settings, link with your local educational partners, make sure your lawmakers know what's going on and work to inform your community. I have some infographics on Pinterest. Dig into those if you're interested. And then I have yet to meet, this is no joke, I've yet to meet a balanced calendar educator, a traditional calendar educator that is elected to leave. No, let me say this another way. A balanced calendar educator who's elected to leave the balanced calendar to go back to the traditional calendar. I was on the right track initially. They're not out there because once you live it, you love it. There is another way. So, we have a minute of questions.
Hey, real quick, you talked about looking back to 5 years of attendance. Can you talk about specifically what you're looking for? Are you just looking for trends?
Yep. we're gonna lose you. Yes, definitely looking for trends. When are your students and staff most likely to be out of school? Either that's a period of time where, you know, the community has illness, or is there something else going on? Is, you know, in Michigan, we have a hunting season, we have annual fairs, where our county fair, where a lot of our students participate, and I would schedule accordingly during those periods of time, you know, front end the fact that you're just going to schedule a break during that period.
Thank you.
You bet.